Welcome to the World United. Welcome to the World United.
We're going to get started for session 3. The theme of this session and this track 1, is nature, community, and connection. So our first presenter this evening is Terri Mitchell. Terri is a speaker, an author, a coach, an ex-psychiatric nurse, a philanthropist, a YouTube channel and podcast host, a mentor, and a global vision activist. She's going to talk to us this evening about living in the global village. And she's going to use her experience as growing up in a tough situation and how she's turned that around and made it her platform to help people be aware. And Terri, it's all yours.
Thank you so much, Mike. Can everyone hear me clearly?
Yes, we can.
Fantastic. I'll just go straight on in and start with you. www. Mention these 3 letters to just about anyone around the world, and almost every person knows what you're referring to. And a micro history of the World Wide Web would tell us that since the 1950s, the US government and their military wanted to create a way for separate computers to talk together. And this was to offset the possibility of a breakdown or loss of military communication in the event of an attack during the Cold War era. And in 1983, the technologies had advanced such that large corporations could buy and use these huge data machines. And in 1989, the technology became even more accessible. There were file transfers, networks, codes, and software. And if you were like me in the 1990s, you were eager to code in HTML and design your own web page and then upload it to this thing called the internet. The WWW, as we've known it, became publicly accessible in 1991. And it was actually in the 60s that the term global village was first coined by a Canadian theorist called Marshall McLuhan. And generally what he was referring to was the growing interconnectedness of the entire world because of the emerging media and technologies of that era. And it's certainly true. The development and expansion of these platforms has brought us into each other's worlds on a scale we've never known before. So what do I mean by global village? The Earth's populations are no longer existing in remote and inaccessible lands. Since the first ships and the first planes, humans have been exploring and traversing the lands of others. With the first cameras and the first films, we were bringing home images from abroad to share with others. When the first telephone came along, we were able to have long-distance conversations with people in real time around the world. And when the first internet systems arrived, we were bringing these distant global places into our homes live as they were unfolding. But we really didn't need the internet or World Wide Web to connect us. We really already had the means by which to be connected. We don't really need more technology. What we need now, and I think more than ever, is a connectedness of mind. We are already a global village. I think what we really need to realize now is that the internet, media, and telecommunications has made our connections not just possible, but really unavoidable. And once we step technologically into the lives of others, we can't unsee or unhear, and we certainly cannot easily unknow or unlearn what we're exposed to, and that can change us. Sadly, overexposure to global situations, especially if they show scenes like violence and chaos or extreme poverty and hardship, can tend to blunt our emotions and our responses. We can have feelings of hopelessness. The situation just seems too big for one person to really have any impact. Or there's feelings of frustration and anger. We're seeing something that triggers these feelings, but we have no means by which to take the actions to change it. And so, yeah, we feel frustrated. Ignorance and judgment. And look, it's one thing to see these situations or to learn of them, but it's something else entirely to be able to really lean in with empathy when we really don't always understand the situation or why it is the way it is. And feelings of indifference. Hey, it's not happening to me. I don't know the people it's impacting. So, I don't know who's involved in all of this. Doesn't affect me personally and emotionally. I distance myself from it all and feel completely indifferent. To change this perspective from all of the exposure that we have from events around the world, I guess to unknow and to unlearn it, we need to intentionally educate ourselves and raise our awareness above this ignorance. Otherwise, we risk being subliminally fed all manner of information about the world itself while remaining detached and unmoved by the realities being broadcast. All of this requires us taking conscious action to change the narrative. Taking conscious action, isn't that what activism is really all about? It's taking action, it's demanding change, it's pursuing what's right for all and not just for one. Unfortunately, activism has a tendency to be negatively associated. We see violence and placard waving and demonstrations and disputing government policies. I'm all about changing the narrative positively. What if we can take positive action, focus on creating positive change, and do so with deep compassion for every person? What if we begin working collaboratively with others, working towards raising our mindset and embracing every person in the global village? To fully engage with our global brothers and sisters, we need to move beyond just self-awareness toward a global connectedness. And I think to do this really demands that we challenge what is, challenge all that we see as unacceptable. That's wealth inequity, food insecurity, resource inaccessibility. One way that we can achieve this is to begin to take stock of everything that we take for granted, from everyday convenience to the ease of access to all modern amenities. We'd also benefit from understanding how Maslow's hierarchy of needs applies to what it is our global brothers and sisters consider as important, and we must respect their culture and beliefs. Many just want safe housing, clean water, enough food so their children don't go hungry, access to basic medical care, and a way to generate their own income so that they can feel secure in their own independence. Really, they want a feeling of safety and hope and a sense of dignity. And once these basic needs are met, then they feel that they can aspire to giving more to their own communities. Now, we hold responsibility for our brothers and sisters to feel independent, safe, hopeful, and dignified. We can take that action. We have the resources to make it possible. I'd like to ask you a question. If you're a parent, would you want your children to endure what you know our global families experience from day to day? That's too little food, not enough nourishment, unclean water, unsafe housing, exposure to parasites, bacteria, illnesses, disease that kill the children, when your own children can be taken to the hospital, the doctor, or even the pharmacy. In fact, you probably have an everyday remedy in your medicine cabinet. These are the resources that our global village citizens they don't have access to and often cannot afford them. And instead they suffer by going without. Your children are the adults of tomorrow. And in fact, they're the parents of tomorrow as well. The world is their global inheritance. So what kind of world are they inheriting? What legacy are we leaving for our children? What kind of equity, resource accessibility, food security will our children just accept as how it is? Are we raising our children's awareness about what kind of world they will inherit and about how they'll share it with their global brothers and sisters? I think that you and I, are responsible for how our children will manage the world that we are borrowing from them. The onus is on us. We are the caretakers of their future and role models through our own actions. We can teach them to do more for others, to realise that we're in a privileged world. We've got more than enough. And it's time, really, for us to start giving to others and to distribute these resources more equitably. It requires a massive shift in thinking. It's not going to be easy, but it's up to us to raise our awareness beyond ourselves and above selfishness, divisiveness, and greed. It's up to us to set the bar, raise the standard, and demand more and better for others. We certainly could learn to live within our means and to realise that we don't need more stuff. When we have way more per person now, beyond what entire communities have across the global village, it is going to take a huge shift in thinking. In fact, it requires more conscious thought, less reactive selfishness, and to learn to say no to any kind of apathy. Because apathy is that sense of uncaring indifference. And I think it's essential that we really put an end to apathy by showing our global village citizens just how much we do care and that we are sensitive to their needs and that we're here to support them to live with dignity, safety, health, and independence. In summary, if we want to hand over a world to our children and to their children that does not make us shudder with shame, guilt, and embarrassment, then it is up to us to raise our awareness and to think long and hard about who we are, because we are part of the global village. Thank you.
Thank you, Terri. That was inspiring, and I think that you're talking to many people who feel similarly to you, that we need to think bigger than just us. So that was timely and very well put. I appreciate that.
Thank you.